So in terms of our agenda for today, we'll be looking at touching on a few introductions. So basically, I'll introduce you to who I am. I'll then attempt to define what branding is. I'll also ask you guys to share with me what your thoughts are on some of the brands that we all know and love in terms of some of the popular brands in the world. We'll then take these insights and look to explore some of our personal values that we hold dear to our hearts. And then after that, we're going to look at our audience and trying to identify who our audience is as founders and entrepreneurs. And then looking at how we place ourselves in the market as brand owners. And then do a very brief recap. And then we'll also touch on our headline. And then we'll take some questions towards the end of the workshop. So, who am I? So my name is Scott Ohene-Nyako. For my Ghanaian brothers and sisters who might be on the call, you can call me Kweku. That means Wednesday born. For my Niger family, you can call me Salah. But who am I? I am the founder of a design agency called 478 Studios. And as an agency, we like to say that we are a collective of designers, strategists, developers, and content creators who have a passion for creating experiences and brands that have a genuine desire to create an impact in the community. And also, we have a very strong passion for developing brands for those who love our continent of Africa. As a creative, I specialize in branding, strategy, storytelling, and web design, and also have a love for editorial design as well. A few brands I've worked with include Coca-Cola, Vodafone, Redeem Fashion, Nollywood Movie Awards, Africa Matters, A Culture Market, and most recently, of course, everyone's favorite urban store, BIDHAAR. So moving on to today's objective. The objective of today is really to engage or facilitate an engaging conversation where we can unpack what branding means to us and explore how we can begin to create brands that resonate with the communities we wish to speak to or be part of. And also, as an ongoing feature, I'm hoping you guys will be able to take some notes and also start thinking about what it is you'd love to hear about your brand in the future. So what, for example, would be your ideal headline you'd love to hear or see in your favorite publication that kind of touches on the brand values and your purpose, maybe in 5 years' time. So moving on to how we define branding. So it can be defined as an array of intangible associations connected to any given product, person, or organization. This can include a set of expectations, memories, stories, and relationships one has of or with that individual or organization. Branding, believe it or not, is not just a logo or a brand identity. That's something that's often thought of. People do sometimes think brand is just a logo, but it's not, unfortunately. It's not your tagline. It's not your Instagram page either. But it is more about the creation of the world you form around your purpose, your vision, and your values. It is what captures the hearts and minds of those who will soon become your tribe and the individuals who share a similar vision. And also, one thing to note is branding is also made up of 4 key things, which are your brand purpose, your brand promise, and also your brand purpose is actually founded on your brand values as well, and then also your positioning. And today we're going to be focusing on those 2 things, your values and your brand purpose, and your positioning today. So to get us started, we're going to have a little brainstorm, a little look at some of the popular brands we have in the world today, and some of the brands we love. So ideally, what I'd like you to think about in the next 5 to 10 minutes is maybe what kind of values or what kind of emotional pulls you get from the following slides, and then also think about how or if any of these brands tap into any of your values as individuals as well. So the first one is Fenty Beauty. The second one is Nike. Next one is Apple. The fourth one is Coca-Cola. And then maybe a bit controversially, this man here. So if we go back to these 5 brands, can anyone tell me what do you feel or what do you see when you look at these brands or any one of them?
I would say I see inclusivity. I
Yeah.
see beautiful women, like powerful, I would say.
Yeah.
And yeah, beauty, essentially. Yeah.
Amazing. That's great. Anybody else for Fenty Beauty? Anybody? Any thoughts on Fenty Beauty?
Oh,
No?
I'll say publicity.
Yeah?
She's trying to say beauty comes in all shapes, colors, and sizes. Really, I see that as well.
Yeah. Definitely.
I
That's
would
actually something that we.
say,
Sorry. Yeah.
sorry, I would say if you could hear me, it's an unapologetic, like
Yes.
you. That's what I get with the faces and the kind of moods that they're presenting from the models.
Yeah. Quite bold and yeah, definitely. Yeah. I love that. Okay, the next one is Nike. What do you think about what kind of values, what kind of emotions do you kind of get from Nike as a brand overall?
Inspirational.
Yeah. I'll
I
move
think
on to the
Mike
next.
kind of prides himself on also kind of inclusivity and also capturing the mainstream, but also showing that it's bold and dares to go for things that maybe people aren't necessarily always speaking about.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we've seen that most recently, haven't we, with the campaigns they've done to really try and speak out on injustice. I've been quite bold with that. Yeah, definitely. I'm going to move on to sorry.
Determination.
Yeah.
Because the just do it slogan, and also the fact of I hope it's someone who's going to be the next Serena Williams. That kind of imagery. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, with the inspirational thought as well, it's just like when it touches your heart, you feel like you can do anything when you see that.
Yeah, I really like this image as well because I think this is Serena, right? Serena when she was very young, like back training, and it just makes you kind of feel like, even at age, you can have that determination instilled in you. So yeah, I do like that. Next one is Apple. What do you think about Apple and this tagline, Think Different?
Out of the ordinary, out of the box, forward thinking.
Yeah.
Not like everyone else.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I also think the black and white kind of goes for Apple's less is more kind of vibe.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. They're very minimalist in their style, aren't they, in terms of their aesthetic? Yeah. Amazing. Next one is Coca-Cola. What kind of things do you get from this, from Coke overall as a brand, and maybe this image?
Cheerful.
Yeah.
Friendship.
Yeah, moments as well.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, and the last one, controversial. What do we get from this guy?
I think the intention from him is meant to come across as honest, says what they think, no frills, no around the bush sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
It comes across quite strong as well, quite a strong also persona to the brand.
Yeah.
Bold as well with the red color, vibrant, like fire. It's not
Yeah. He is quite a fiery character, isn't he? Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So this kind of ties us into the first real activity for us. So we're going to be looking at our brand values, and also as individuals, what are the kind of brand values that we believe we would love to see in our future or existing brands. And actually, it might be an idea, just kind of an idea of how many of you are already entrepreneurs, or are you looking to create brands in the future? So how many of you guys are already entrepreneurs and developing your own brand at the moment?
I'm trying to do that and hopefully setting up a vintage site and then hopefully putting in my own designs as well at the same time.
I think everyone on this call is actually.
Okay, amazing. Okay. Brilliant. So that's quite good then. So we can hopefully go through the next activity and try and get an idea of, if you were to choose 5 people from this next activity, what values you believe they reflect that are accurate to what you stand for, and then maybe also definitely don't reflect in terms of what they stand for and represent. So this is all about trying to unpick different values and what they stand for from these characters. So I'm going to take it from the top, and then ideally, if we can, just make a note. Maybe if you have a notepad, and then maybe we can, after 2 or 3 minutes, we can maybe one by one just say a few of the characters from this list on this slide deck, and say which ones you believe share some of the values you stand for as founders and creators of brands. So this guy, I'm just gonna flick through, and then if you make a note on your notebook or somewhere on the computer, then we can just come back and think about any of these characters and which ones reflect the values you stand for, and the ones that maybe don't. Can you see them okay? We're almost there. Almost there. So ideally, maybe think about personality, tone of voice, their character, and also maybe even if you think they stand for things that you reflect as well, that you agree with. So who would like to start? Who would like to share if any of those characters said any values that they kind of stand for as well, or things they definitely don't stand for and they wouldn't want to employ in their brand if they were to create their own business?
Would we like to go through that again? Like the pictures of the people that Scott just put out. Would we like to go through that again?
So I flick through.
Yeah,
The intent is to pick 5 of these people, like denote 5 of all those people on the slides that you feel that you'd love them to represent your brand.
Yeah.
Or to work for your brand.
Can I say something about one of the pictures?
Yeah, sure, definitely.
I would definitely say for Serena Williams, even the picture you chose with her hair like a corona, like a crown, like a lion's mane, I would definitely say she represents her brand, because whenever you see her, she's always powerful. She's doing the tennis thing, a white man's thing, her own way, always getting called out for her fashion choices, but she's still doing it anyway and pushing the buttons and calling into question what they're presenting to us. Like, is this the norm? Like, should this be one way? There are other ways to do this sport. It doesn't have to be your way.
Definitely.
Say.
Amazing.
That's a brand.
That's great. Thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts on some of the characters that we saw on the slide?
it's really hard to narrow it down to 5. Kind of like what's just been said about Serena. I picked Serena as well. But I think, like, just looking at the 5 that I've picked, they're all Black. So I think that really represents my brand as well. Well, what I'm trying to build.
Amazing. Okay.
That kind of representation.
Amazing. Cool. Thank you very much. So basically, that was all about trying to talk about values in terms of some of the values that will help make the foundation of your brand. So the values can basically be what can be done to drive the purpose and the famous why of what you've been called a motivator to do in your business. So I don't know if any of you have seen the Simon Sinek video of the why, and he talks about how the values are a very big pillar in terms of creating your brand, and basically the why is what you do, the why you've chosen to create your brand or your business, and that's what's going to hopefully set you apart. And then trying to create that kind of connection, an emotional connection with your potential audience, your clients, your customers as well. And hopefully with those values as well, you can try and articulate those through your tone of voice, through your communications, and also through your storytelling as well. And going back to Fenty Beauty's image that we saw earlier, their why is basically detailed here. So their why was all about, because they want women everywhere to be included. And I think we saw that in the first image that we saw on the previous kind of icebreaker activity, where it was very inclusive, trying to, like we mentioned as well, very unapologetic as well, in terms of who they're trying to target, their boldness in their brand, the messaging and the tone of voice. and the colors as well. So we've now completed activity 1. Now we're going to talk about the audience. So in context of branding, it's all about connecting with your desired demographic. You need to understand what makes them laugh, cry, and jump for joy. Your brand is only as strong as the loyalty and love your community show you, because you're able to tap into something that deeply resonates with them. So activity 2, do you really know me? So this is all about trying to unpick some of the emotive touch points and passion points that your audience of your brand may have. So we're going to if you have maybe 5 minutes, we're going to try and answer a few questions collectively, or if not, we can maybe go use some existing brands and place them here. So the things we want to really know are what they stand for and what's their motto. So here we have can you see the slide okay? So we have a fictional character and a few questions to think about really when you're thinking about your brand audience and demographic are, what are the things that keep them up at night? What are 3 events you can imagine they attended this year? What's likely to be in the top 3 most recently listened to audio listings? Where in the world are they planning to travel to next and why? What have they seen recently that they may have applauded or celebrated? And then lastly, what have they seen recently that may have made them frustrated, upset, or caused them to spark up a conversation or debate? And I think we can probably all agree that the past 3 months has been quite unique in terms of the movement of Black Lives Matter and the injustice that's been really, really spoken about at great length and great detail. So maybe that could be something that maybe be a conversation that your target audience, you believe, reflects your brand, maybe talking about, and then also other things that you think might be topical in their debates or in the conversation. But this activity is just trying to get an idea of what do you think your ideal clients or ideal demographic are talking about, thinking about, what do they live for, and ideally, what is their motto? So has anyone got any thoughts on something they believe maybe somebody who represents their clients or demographic or audience maybe discussing or thinking about right now?
Me, it's more targeted towards the younger generation, so
Okay.
kind of millennial, Gen Z type, and specifically from diasporic backgrounds, who have an appreciation for their kind of home culture and almost like on this journey of rediscovery. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. And would you like to share a bit more about your brand, or tell us
Well,
what
yeah. So I'm really in the initial stages with
Okay.
where I'm at with it. So is essentially a fashion label which celebrates the intersections and crossroads of identity, and I'm looking at it specifically from like as a physical representation of me. So my background is Nigerian, Hausa, and I'm from Scotland. So
Amazing.
that's where I've grown up. This is where I'm living, and then also based on spirituality and kind of like faith-based fashion as well. That's taken inspiration from faith as well, from my Islamic faith. So it's like a combination of those things and seeing how that could be represented in fashion in an aesthetic way. So yeah.
No, that's really cool. Amazing. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Has anybody else got any thoughts on maybe some of the people they think they'll be targeting as part of maybe the communications or their marketing as part of their brand? No? Okay. So we'll move on. We'll just think about, so the activity here, which you'll get in your pack after the workshop, is maybe something that for you guys to think about after the workshop. But it's just an idea just to kind of help you identify the passion points of your audience and your demographic as you're trying to grow and build your brand. The one thing that's always good to do is try and create almost like their life motto in a way. So what do you think they really stand for? So for example, for when I was creating 478 Studios, I kind of noticed a kind of inaccurate perception of businesses that were led by people that look like me. So I thought with my passion for design, I can maybe use design to kind of change that perception. So my motto has kind of been using the power of design and branding. How can I use that to change perceptions of how people might perceive me as an individual, or even things that I do and things I present and I create? So that's kind of like my motto to a sense. So using the power of design to change perceptions. So maybe think about that for yourselves, for your brand, and also maybe what you think your clients or potential customers might be thinking as well, what they stand for, what is the problem or the issue they have maybe identified that maybe through your service or through your brand and through your creations, how can you kind of relate to meet in the middle? So the next topic we're going to be talking about now is all about positioning. So this is all about creating a unique impression in the mind of your customer so that they can begin to associate something specific and desirable with your brand that is distinct from the rest of the marketplace. So using Amazon as an example, their positioning statement is as follows. For worldwide web users who enjoy products, unlike traditional retailers, Amazon.com provides a combination of extraordinary convenience, low prices, and comprehensive selection. So this activity was going to look at, for example, my brand as an example, and also Amazon. And we're going to place them on two matrices. And that's quite an easy way to kind of identify and position your existing brand as well. So if you like, if anybody wants to volunteer, we can go through your brand or your future brand and place them on a matrix that you think relates to where you see your brand going in the next few years. So this matrix is all about two things. So who is it for? Is it targeted or is it for everybody? And in terms of maybe the service offering or the pricing or the kind of value, where would you place it on the matrix? So I'll start with 478 Studios, my company. So I would say it's quite targeted in the sense that the way it was conceived was we wanted to kind of create a brand or a business that focuses towards those who are from the diaspora, also those who have a conscious ethical part of their business as well. So it's quite targeted, quite niche. We don't often provide services for everybody. It's kind of targeted to our demographic who have a kind of conscious thoughts or thinking in their branding or approach to business. And then in terms of Amazon, as you can see here, we've placed them towards the bottom in terms of for the world, as you saw in the positioning statements, they're very much all encompassing. They're trying to target everybody, very inclusive, very approachable to all people. And also in terms of their pricing, they're very affordable and also based on convenience as well. So I don't know if anybody wants to share some thoughts on that in terms of their personal brands or brands they're creating. Do you have any thoughts or ideas where you position yourselves as brand owners or brand creators on this matrix? Is that better? Is that easier to see? Okay. So we'll move on to the next slide. So in terms of tone of voice, personality, we're thinking about here how maybe a brand would use the positioning to try and communicate to the wider market. So here we're looking at a matrix of their tone of voice and visual aesthetic. So are they a brand that is maybe vibrant and playful? Or are they more muted and minimalist? Or in terms of maybe how they communicate, are they quite corporate and formal in their tone of voice and their language? Or are they more casual and use a bit of humor and personable approach in their wording or their communications? So for us as a brand, we try to be more personable in our tone of voice. So when we're writing copy for our clients, we normally lead with a very personable kind of approach with that and trying to really unpick the character and the people behind the brand. And it's like similarly to Amazon as well, they're very casual in their humor, casual in their communications as well, quite approachable as well, and also targeted to the people, everyday people. And in terms of the branding, it's quite playful, quite vibrant. I wouldn't say it's too minimalist, hence why it's been positioned here. And this activity or this matrix is quite a simple way to help guide you in terms of identifying and placing your future business or current business on a matrix or a scale. And you can apply any kind of features or attributes to this scale. And this kind of helps you articulate, identify where you believe you place your business on this. And it all helps and all kind of stems from understanding where your audience is and who they are as well. Would anyone want to discuss or share their thoughts on where they think their brand might be on this list, on this matrix?
Well, if I'm going to comment, for me, oh, I don't know what I should talk about, BIDHAAR or my fashion brand. Okay, okay, let me go with my fashion brand. So for me, my fashion brand is muted and minimalist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's in between the muted and minimalist and the formal and corporate. So it isn't fully formal and it isn't fully minimalist.
Okay.
So like
cool.
in between. Yeah.
Okay. So if you were going to write like an article that was maybe to promote it in a press release, for example, how would you write it as well in terms of tone of voice? Would it be quite corporate or formal, or would it be a bit more you use the wording to articulate your brand?
A bit more casual and personal than corporate.
Okay. So would you say you're kind of around this kind of reason? Or a little bit lower? Really?
Not quite, because a little bit lower. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. Anybody else?
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay.
I think I think mine would be in between like playful and vibrant and casual humor.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Sort of in between that, like not too formal or minimalist.
Okay, brilliant. Okay. Anybody else? One more person?
I would definitely be between playful and vibrant and casual humor.
Yeah.
I think maybe starting as a small brand, you've got a bit more of a close to your customers. So especially through social media, so they get to know you, so your personality a bit more. Than if you're a big brand, then it's easier to fall into the corporate side of things.
Amazing. Okay, that's very true. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, guys. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. So in terms of what we've discussed so far in our workshop, we've tried to talk about positioning in terms of trying to find where we best place ourselves in on the matrix of various attributes. So, for example, our tone of voice, our stylistic preferences, also how we communicate. We've also talked about our audience. So ideally, if we want, we can go back to that task if you want to spend some time on that. And that's just trying to really unpick who our target audience is and trying to see what things we believe we share with our target audience as brand owners and brand founders. And the reason why I focus so much on that is because for me, it's all about storytelling. And it's all about trying to create stories with our brands that kind of resonates very much with the people you're trying to connect with and talk to. So one thing I maybe think we could do afterwards, which we'll share with you, is the questionnaire. And if you like, you can feel free to complete that. If you want me to feedback on it, feel free to email me or contact Chima via BIDHAAR, and we can always discuss that later on. But I think in terms of your brand, do you have any questions so far in terms of what we discussed so far through this workshop? Or are there any things that you might want me to unpick while we're here?
Yeah, in terms of kind of like placing your brand,
Yeah.
how do you recommend like going the best way about it? Because it's really easy to kind of like fall into like what you see other people doing, and then also that conflict of like who you are as a person. So how would you recommend kind of navigating that?
I think actually in the era we're in now with social media and also the ability for everybody to have a voice, to be heard through things like even creating blog articles, I think it's quite an interesting time to be very true to yourself and not worry about what your competitors or what other people around you are doing. And I think the reason I say that is because I'm a strong believer that we attract people who share similar traits or similar values. And that goes back to the whole idea of why the values develops is kind of what stimulates your purpose in your brand and your business. So in terms of placing yourself, I'd recommend go niche if you like, as long as it's true, as long as it's very honest and genuine to what your vision is. So as long as it reflects that, I would go for it.
Just piggybacking off of what Mariam said, though, I do agree that sometimes, even in the age of social media, people are kind of getting their brand awareness out there with the same sort of methods, and it's also about how do you kind of obviously because obviously you have a niche, but then the whole point of getting your niche out to find the people that feed into your niche is increasing your brand awareness. And I just wonder how you go about making your brand awareness and still keeping your authenticity. And the other thing I was going to ask about positioning yourself is in terms of brand persona. When you're looking at a customer persona that maybe spans different age groups, because for example, I'm co-founder of a platform called Yorubaism, which is it's a Pan-African platform but centered around the Yoruba culture, and with that it's obviously targeting like millennials and Gen Z, but it's also meant to attract people in the diaspora, those on the continent as well, and it also doesn't really seek to leave out maybe people in an older generation, and we're looking to target kids. So there's a number of customer personas to attract.
I understand. Okay. So in terms of maybe attracting different customer personas, one thing that I'm quite a big fan of is it depends on how you want to position the brand, or are you somebody who would like to be happy to be the face of the brand as well? Are you happy speaking on behalf of your brand and the personas that make that brand of the business? Or would you have maybe the business having like people to kind of represent those different personas in terms of maybe creating a conversation piece, perhaps?
Literally no preference to either, really, just what we feel fits best for the brand, essentially.
Yeah. So one example I could probably give is something that we've done previously with other clients is who had a similar situation was they did like almost like a small interviews and small biopic kind of interviews and conversation pieces. So I don't know if anyone saw the series by Simon Frederick called Black is the New Black. And that was quite a very interesting piece where they had people from all ages from the Afro-Caribbean community talking about their experiences as Black actors and actresses. And I thought that's a very compelling way to try and articulate the brand story, but across different kind of sections of the scale. So maybe there could be an opportunity there to maybe articulate maybe share your story and across different sectors through maybe some quite touching, quite emotive storytelling, in the sense of maybe interviews that can be recorded as content. Mm-hmm. That content can also be shared across your platforms as campaigns, as pieces that you can maybe portray and share with your demographic. So maybe even do a seasonal campaign, perhaps, where for the month of September, it's all about one particular demographic, where you're celebrating that demographic, and it's kind of bespoke to that. And the next season, you celebrate the other clientele. So everyone kind of gets an idea and a special moment where they can actually feel, yes, I resonate with that brand because they've actually identified me. And that can be a quite nice opportunity to maybe use a campaign kind of structure to target those different niches as well.
Mm.
I hope that kind of answers.
Yeah, that was really useful, actually. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts or questions I can help with at all in terms of branding or maybe even a bit of marketing or design?
Oh, no, go on, keep going.
No, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, how do you find out what your customer stands for and who your customer is?
That's a very good question. Yeah.
It's a really hard question.
Yeah. It's, to be fair, it's taken me about 10 years to find out what my customers stand for, so I'm still learning. But I think it's all about conversation. To be honest, I think it's the best way is to try and get out there, or even just do surveys if you can. So I think if you have time to spend on dedicate towards research, I think that's definitely the thing to do. So there's a great book, actually. I don't know if you can see it. It's called Branding, basically, the 5 simple steps. And there's a whole chapter on research and just trying to identify and really hone in on that through research, trying to really develop your clientele and client base. So when you do say communications, maybe through your social media, through your blog, through your websites, the tone of voice, the way you're talking about your brand speaks to them at their core, and they can hopefully see them in your communications. But I'll definitely recommend surveys, and if you can, just have a conversation, or maybe even hold like a mini workshop where you have a bit of a seminar with them to try and have a conversation and say, hey, I'm creating this. You'd like to be a part of it. What are the things that kind of speak to you most, and just have that intimate conversation. And also that kind of allows you to kind of show that there's people behind your brand and your business, and people do buy into people. So I think that's probably an approach that can be taken.
No, that's good. That's something I've been meaning to do for ages. So yeah, it's back on my to-do list. Thanks.
No worries.
If I could say something to that, basically, okay, I think because of your question, when we are sending the videos to and the slides to everyone, we would attach a customer persona form that you could actually use for your customers. And based on our experience, a lot of our clients have actually been willing to fill the forms for us in form of a questionnaire. So at the end of the day, most of the times it's actually just about you asking. So you just look for your clients or your customers that you know are repeat customers and are actually invested in your brand or love what you're doing, and ask. Most of the times they agree to actually give you the answer that you're looking for. And then when you put all of these together, it will actually be able to give you a better idea of how to package your brand, how to talk to them, even when it comes to marketing, PR, and all of that. It's actually a basics that you need. Even when it comes to pricing, like setting your product pricing and all of that, you need to understand your target audience and how much they're actually willing to pay for your product and things like that, for you to be able to set the perfect price and all of that. So it's an ongoing process, but basically just ask. Most people are actually very inclined to talking to you.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
I think there's one more question. Was there another question that was coming in?
I guess I have like another question. It's more like when you, for example, when your brand is not like you're not selling a product, right? You have a media, and you want to attract, the right people, and you also want to share like a brand identity, but you're talking about different topics. So I'm trying to figure out how I can communicate what my brand is, and like through what I write from. It's I don't know. It's not really clear actually my question, but it's just like what do you know, like if there are like specificities for media in general compared to brand who's selling product?
Okay, so in terms of the media, are you talking about like written content, written media, or is it more
Yeah,
like audio and visual? Okay,
it's
so
like
written media.
written content and social media like Instagram.
Okay, so I guess, do you have a website that you have at the moment that is hosted on your
Uh,
articles?
yeah, it's very new, like 2 weeks ago, but it's just like trying to understand how I can do. But yeah, I have the website and the social media account as well, Instagram.
Okay, so I guess one thing that is quite interesting nowadays is, I guess, you could do like a lot of targeted marketing now with
Mm-hmm.
social media. So if you wanted to look into things like even Instagram sponsored ads posts, they can
Mm-hmm.
be quite handy. And I think Instagram is quite good actually in terms of breaking it down for you. And you can
Okay.
kind of see in the back end
Okay.
what people or demographics in terms of age range, what their preferences are, what they
Mm-hmm.
like. And you can also have a full breakdown when you do those sponsored ad posts. So that could be something to maybe look into. So maybe sponsored ads via Instagram, and you
Mm-hmm.
can definitely target people you think would kind of relate to your brand best. And
Okay.
that can also go back to what Zoma mentioned in terms of the persona questionnaire as well. So maybe if you had that questionnaire filled out,
Mm-hmm.
that can maybe inform how you target people if you were to do like sponsored ads. Then I guess also in terms of maybe SEO. So I don't know if you have SEO on your website, but that's something as well that can maybe be quite useful in
Mm-hmm.
terms of your search engine optimization. So when
Yeah.
people are trying to search for something that's maybe related in terms of your topic or your subject headline for your article,
Mm-hmm.
maybe if you type in those, if you host those keywords within your website or your article for each article,
Mm-hmm.
ideally that will be what will be triggered to let your article come up on Google.
All right.
So that's probably like I would recommend looking into the SEO for your website as it's quite new and quite fresh, and
Mm-hmm.
then also sponsored targeted ads. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
If I could add to that, yeah, based on your branding, at the end of the day, despite the fact that it's content that you want to put out, you also want to have people want people to have an ideology of what kind of brand you're trying to build when they come on your website or your social media pages.
Mm-hmm.
So the tone of voice of the content that you put out is actually quite important as well.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's going to be playful, formal, casual. So you need to first understand that is where the customer persona comes in. Who do you want to read your content? Are they professionals, like high professionals, or are they students, or are they
Mm-hmm.
business people, or are they employees, things like that? Now, when you find out you want to read your content, that would best, and then the age range and things like that, that would best help you define what kind of tone of voice do you want to use. Do you want to sound conversational, or do you want to just sound like you're just giving them business reports for business executives, people who do not actually have the time to like start reading stories and all of that? Or do you want to come out as if you're telling a story while you're still giving the information that you want to come about get across? That's part of what being your tone of voice has to do for you. Then your colors as well, like your brand colors, what kind of vibe do they get when they come on your website or your social media? Do they see you as, is it serious? Is it something that is all over the place and things like that? So it's part of what you also need to take cognizance of when you're also trying to look at what your branding is going to speak out to. Because a lot of people do not realize that your website's look and feel is also important when it comes to building a brand image. It isn't just about putting up content and then getting your SEO for people to find it. When they find you, how do they feel on your website? Do they feel like they have to, like, it's homely for them to actually stay? Is it a place, if you want your website to actually come out as formal, then obviously you're not looking for the person to stay on your website for hours. You just want the person to just come in, to feel like he just needs to come in, take the information and leave. But if you want the person to spend time on the website, then the feel of the website, it has to make the person feel like, I want to spend more time here. So your colors has to come into play, the shapes that you use on the website, the tone of voice and things like that. So all these things come into consideration when you're actually trying to present your brand to people, whether it's a physical business or product, or it's an online business or product, or even content in your case.
All right. Yeah, I've taken notes. Thank you for your answers.
Thank you. I think I've got time for one more question, if anybody has any more thoughts.
Yeah, could I just ask a quick one? It's kind of based off what Chioma was talking about. But in terms of your branding, how do you make it more cohesive, and how do you go about choosing colors? Because I looked at color theory and stuff like that, but I don't know whether people actually still buy into it, and I don't know whether if you choose certain colors, if that's a representation of your brand. So how do you kind of go about the design side, like making it all cohesive?
I think you're echoing what Chioma said in terms of consistency is definitely something that needs to be considered. So I definitely think about, for me, when I use color, I'd always recommend a maximum of 5 colors. So when I'm developing brand guidelines, for example, I always start with maybe a muted contrasting set of colors. So for example, a dark gray perhaps for body copy, and then white for just a very transparent space. But then the ones that relate to your character, your tone of voice, the ones that relate to your persona, and also maybe those of your demographic you're trying to appeal to, that's probably a way you can maybe experiment more with your more creative, more playful kind of color palettes, and maybe you might be using more vibrant colors, for example. And maybe someone to start is Adobe Cooler. So that's quite a good online resource in terms of finding quite bespoke, quite a wide range of colors. But in terms of being cohesive, I think limiting yourself to maybe 5 core colors that reflect the maybe more muted part of your brand, where it's a bit more serious, and then the more playful part of your brand. I'd definitely just keep that quite restrained to maybe 5 core colors. So when people come onto your website, when people come onto your social media, if those core colors are consistent throughout everything you do, or your touch points, whether it's through your posts, through your storytelling, through your articles, all the other various touch points of your brand, that will help it be consistent, and people be more inclined to be, oh, okay, that was created by that person or that brand. So it becomes more memorable as well in their minds.
Okay, thank you.
If I could say something as well, you also basically need to understand color psychology. Like, for instance, when he brought those photos and then we saw the photo of Donald Trump with the red, someone commented that, oh, there's the red that stands for fire and there's energy, which is true. That's what people see when they actually see red, fire, energy, and all of that. In China, red is supposedly a good thing. So they use it for weddings and things like that. So even when you're doing branding, you need to understand color psychology. If you want to appear very formal and all of that, some people tend to go towards gray. And then when you want to appear playful, some people tend to go towards yellow and things like that. So you need to also understand, that is also part of where your customer persona comes in. What are your target audience? Like, what are their age range? And then how do you want to get across to them? Yeah. And then you now look at the colors that would identify with their values and what they're looking at. For if you're going for an older demographic, obviously you wouldn't obviously want to use something that is too playful. And then if you're going for kids, you would obviously want to use very playful colors like pink and things like that. If we also know that, for instance, a brand that is dedicated to women doesn't tend to use strong colors like black and gray. Whereas brands that are dedicated to men tend to use things like blue and black and all of that to indicate strength and all of that. So these are kind of the things that we also need to look at. It doesn't necessarily mean that these colors can be used interchangeably with these brands, but at the end of the day, like he mentioned, color contrasting, you should be able to find a balance in all the colors that you're going to use in your brand that is still going to speak the same language or to relate the same information that you want to relate to for your brand.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Cool. Okay, guys. Okay. So I think we'll close it off there. But if you do have any more questions, please do feel free to email BIDHAAR, and we can always arrange some more conversations afterwards if you like.
Yeah. Just send us an email and then we'll answer you. Or if you actually feel like you need to get on a call with us, we're also available for that. So thank you, everyone.